I've been a registered nurse at Riverside Sleep Disorders Center for 8 years, and what happened during my shift on November 15, 2023, still makes me question everything I thought I knew about sleep medicine. What I witnessed that night with patient 247 changed my understanding of human consciousness and left me wondering how much we really know about what happens when people close their eyes. The Riverside Sleep Disorders Center sits on the edge of Millfield, a quiet town of about 12,000 people where most residents are asleep by 10 p.m. Our facility handles everything from basic sleep apnea studies to complex parasomnia evaluations for patients throughout the Tri-County area. The building itself is modern but unremarkable, a single-story medical complex with 12 private sleep study rooms, each equipped with hospital-grade monitoring equipment and infrared cameras. That November night, steady rain drummed against our windows as I began my 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. The weather forecast had called for intermittent showers, but this was a persistent downpour that made the parking lot glisten under our security lights. I was the only nurse on duty, responsible for monitoring 6 patients simultaneously through our central observation station. Patient 247 had been admitted for a comprehensive sleep study under Dr. Martinez's care. Marcus Chin, a 34-year-old software engineer from downtown Millfield, had been experiencing chronic insomnia and disturbing dreams that left him exhausted during the day. His wife had reported that he would talk in his sleep, sometimes having full conversations with invisible people, and occasionally would sit up in bed with his eyes open while appearing to still be asleep. Marcus arrived at 9:30 p.m. driving a silver 2018 Honda Civic with California plates. During intake, he seemed unusually nervous, constantly checking his car in the parking lot through the waiting room window. His paperwork listed his address as 1247 Oak Street, and his emergency contact was listed as his wife, Jennifer Chin. "First time doing this," he said as I led him to room 7, settling nervously into the hospital bed. "My wife thinks I'm losing my mind. She says I have conversations at night, but I never remember them." Dr. Martinez had ordered a full polysomnography study, which meant I needed to attach multiple monitoring devices. I explained each step as I worked, e.g. electrodes on his scalp and face to monitor brain waves, electrodes near his eyes to track rapid eye movements, chest and abdominal belts to measure breathing patterns, a pulse oximeter on his finger, and electrodes on his legs to detect movement. The room's infrared cameras would record his physical behavior throughout the night. "The equipment will monitor your sleep stages," I explained professionally. "Try to sleep as normally as possible and ignore the wires as much as you can. Most patients adjust within the first hour." Marcus nodded, but I noticed he kept glancing at the observation window. "Will someone be watching me all night?" "I monitor all patients from the central station," I confirmed. "If there are any equipment issues or medical concerns, I'll check on you. Otherwise, try to get comfortable and sleep naturally." By midnight, Marcus appeared to have fallen asleep without difficulty. His brain waves showed the characteristic alpha wave patterns of drowsiness transitioning into stage 1 sleep, then progressing normally through stage 2. His breathing was regular, his heart rate had dropped to a normal sleeping rhythm, and his muscle tone had relaxed appropriately. Around 12:45 a.m., Marcus entered stage 3 non-REM sleep, the deepest stage of the sleep cycle. His EEG readings showed the large, slow delta waves characteristic of deep sleep. This is when the body performs its most restorative functions: tissue repair, memory consolidation, and growth hormone release. Patients in stage 3 sleep are typically very difficult to wake and often feel disoriented if awakened. Everything looked textbook normal until 1:47 a.m., when something changed that defied every principle of sleep medicine I'd learned in my decade of healthcare experience. The EEG readings showed Marcus was still producing the large, slow delta waves consistent with stage 3 deep sleep. His breathing remained slow and regular, his heart rate stayed at sleeping levels, and his muscle tone showed the appropriate relaxation. But his eyes snapped open simultaneously, not the gradual awakening we normally observe when patients transition between sleep stages. More disturbing, his eyes showed complete alertness and awareness. When people wake from deep sleep, There's typically a period of confusion and grogginess called sleep inertia. Marcus showed no signs of this disorientation. I watched through the observation window as Marcus sat up in bed with precise, deliberate movements. The EEG continued showing uninterrupted stage 3 sleep patterns. According to every medical principle I understood, this was impossible. You cannot maintain consciousness and coordinated movement while your brain is in deep sleep. Marcus began speaking in a clear, conversational tone that carried none of the mumbled quality typical of sleep talking. The documentation needs to be updated immediately. Patient files from the 2019 audit are incomplete and require immediate attention. His voice was crisp and professional, as if he were conducting a business meeting. I checked the monitors again, certain there must be equipment malfunction. But every reading confirmed the same thing: delta waves consistent with deep sleep, yet he was having what appeared to be a coherent conversation with someone I couldn't see. Yes, I understand the compliance requirements, Marcus continued, nodding as if listening to responses. The Hendricks account shows significant irregularities in the audit trail that weren't addressed in the quarterly review. This wasn't typical somniloquy sleep talking. His responses were too specific, too coherent, and too interactive. He was clearly responding to questions and comments from someone, maintaining a back-and-forth dialogue, while his brain waves never deviated from deep sleep patterns. I immediately called Dr. Martinez at his home number. Doctor, you need to see this. Patient 247 is having complex, coherent conversations while showing continuous stage 3 sleep brain waves. Sleep talking can be more complex than people realize, Dr. Martinez replied, his voice groggy from being awakened. Some patients can carry on quite detailed conversations during parasomnia episodes. Document the behavior, and we'll review the footage in the morning. Sir, this is different, I insisted. He's responding to specific questions and discussing detailed business matters. His brain waves haven't changed from deep sleep at all. Continue monitoring and document everything, Dr. Martinez instructed. If his vital signs become unstable, or if he shows signs of distress, call me back immediately. But what happened next convinced me that this wasn't any recognized sleep disorder. At exactly 2:03 a.m., Marcus suddenly turned his head toward the observation window and looked directly at me. His eyes focused on mine with complete awareness and recognition. There was no confusion, no sleepy disorientation, just clear, alert consciousness. The nurse is documenting our conversation, he said to his invisible companion, never breaking eye contact with me. She's standing by the window wearing blue scrubs and holding a clipboard. My blood went cold. I was indeed wearing navy blue scrubs, and I was holding my documentation clipboard exactly as he described. But according to every monitor in front of me, Marcus was in the deepest stage of sleep, a state where patients typically have no awareness of their environment. Tell her that the Patterson case requires immediate attention, Marcus continued, still maintaining that unsettling direct eye contact. Room 314 at Riverside Medical Center. She needs to check the 4 medication logs from October 23rd. The discrepancies in the narcotics count are connected to the staffing changes made after the Henderson investigation. I wrote down every word, my hands shaking as I tried to process what I was experiencing. Patterson case? Room 314? Henderson investigation? These weren't the random, fragmented utterances typical of sleep talking. They sounded like specific, urgent instructions about real situations. The documentation trail shows irregularities in the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift pattern, Marcus added. 3 different nurses accessed the medication dispensing system outside their assigned patient load. Cross-reference with the payroll records from August through October. At 2:15 a.m., as suddenly as the episode began, Marcus laid back down and resumed normal sleeping position. His brain waves remained in deep sleep throughout the entire 20-minute incident. There had been no transition to lighter sleep stages, no REM activity, no change in vital signs, just the impossible combination of deep sleep brain patterns with conscious, interactive behavior. When morning came at 6:30 a.m., Marcus woke naturally as patients typically do after a night of monitoring. He stretched, yawned, and asked about his results with normal post-sleep grogginess. "How did I sleep?" he asked, appearing genuinely curious about his study results. "You had some interesting patterns," I replied carefully, not wanting to influence his recollection. "Dr. Martinez will review everything and discuss the findings with you." "Did I talk in my sleep?" "My wife says I do that sometimes, but I never remember." "There was some vocalization," I confirmed. "Do you remember any dreams or anything unusual about the night?" Marcus shook his head. "I remember getting comfortable with all the wires, and then waking up just now. I actually feel more rested than I have in months." After Marcus left for his follow-up appointment with Dr. Martinez, I couldn't stop thinking about the specific details he had mentioned during his sleep episode. During my lunch break, I decided to investigate whether the information he'd provided had any basis in reality. I called Riverside Medical Center and asked to speak with someone about room 314. "That's our cardiac intensive care unit," the operator confirmed. "Would you like me to connect you with the nursing station? Is there currently a Patterson case in that room?" There was a pause. "Are you family? We can't discuss patient information with unauthorized individuals." "I'm a nurse at Riverside Sleep Center," I explained. "We had a patient mention this case during a sleep study, and I'm trying to understand if there's a medical connection. You'll need to speak with our administration or have your facility submit an official inquiry," the operator replied before ending the call. That afternoon, I used my professional network to discreetly research the details Marcus had mentioned. What I discovered made the situation far more disturbing. Patterson was indeed a current patient at Riverside Medical Center, room 314. There had been an internal investigation regarding four medication discrepancies on the night shift, specifically concerning narcotic counts during late October. 3 nurses were under review for accessing the automated medication dispensing system outside their assigned patient responsibilities. The Henderson investigation Marcus referenced was a separate but related matter from earlier in the year, involving a nursing supervisor who had been terminated for falsifying documentation related to controlled substance administration. This information wasn't public knowledge. It wasn't in news reports, online databases, or accessible through normal channels. The only way someone could know these specific details was through direct access to confidential hospital internal investigation records. I documented everything and reported my findings to Dr. Martinez when he arrived for his afternoon shift. He reviewed the overnight footage, confirming that Marcus never left the bed, never made phone calls, and showed continuous deep sleep brain waves during the entire episode. "This doesn't fit any recognized sleep disorder in our diagnostic manual," Dr. Martinez admitted after reviewing the data. "The combination of deep sleep brain activity with complex interactive behavior isn't medically possible according to current understanding. I'm going to refer this case to the university sleep research team." "What about the specific information he provided about Riverside Medical Center?" I asked. "That's even more concerning," Dr. Martinez replied. "If he somehow obtained confidential information about ongoing internal investigations, that raises questions about how and why." 3 days later, I received a call that changed everything about this case. Dr. Martinez had attempted to contact Marcus for follow-up testing, but the phone number provided was disconnected. When he sent correspondence to the address on file, it was returned as undeliverable. Further investigation revealed that Marcus Chin had never worked as a software engineer for any company in our area. His employment records showed he was actually a former hospital administrator who had been terminated from Riverside Medical Center in October 2019 for unauthorized access to confidential patient files and internal investigation documents. The address he provided, 1247 Oak Street, was the location of a commercial building that had been demolished 2 years earlier. His real address was an apartment complex on Riverside Drive, just 2 miles from Riverside Medical Center, where he had been living under his actual name while apparently using false credentials at our clinic. The emergency contact, Jennifer Chen, was also fictitious. Phone records showed he had provided a number that belonged to a disconnected voicemail service. Marcus had systematically used false information to gain access to our sleep clinic, then used his sleep study appointment to pass along detailed intelligence about ongoing investigations at his former workplace. But how he obtained current confidential information while appearing to be genuinely asleep remained completely unexplained. The information he provided during his sleep episode proved to be remarkably accurate. The Patterson case investigation led to the discovery of a medication diversion scheme involving exactly the 3 nurses Marcus had identified. Cross-referencing with payroll records revealed the pattern of unauthorized medication system access he had described. Hospital administration launched a broader investigation based on the information Marcus had somehow obtained. This led to the arrest of 5 staff members involved in stealing and selling prescription narcotics, and the recovery of over $75,000 in diverted medications. Marcus Chin disappeared before authorities could locate him for questioning. His silver Honda Civic was found abandoned at the county regional airport 3 days after his sleep study. Airport security footage showed him boarding a flight to Phoenix using identification we couldn't verify. Dr. Martinez sealed Marcus's case file and restricted access to authorized personnel only. The university research team declined to investigate when they learned about the criminal implications, stating the case fell outside their ethical guidelines for human subjects research. What disturbs me most is the realization that someone had successfully infiltrated our medical facility, using our sleep clinic as a cover for what appeared to be an intelligence-gathering operation. Our patients trust us with their most vulnerable state, and we had unknowingly provided that trust to someone with hidden motives and unexplained access to confidential information. But the medical mystery remains unsolved. How did Marcus maintain such detailed awareness, memory, and conversation ability while producing genuine deep sleep brain patterns? Current sleep medicine cannot explain the neurological impossibility of his condition. I've researched every sleep disorder, every parasomnia, every documented case of complex sleep behavior. Nothing matches what I observed. Sleepwalkers and sleep talkers show different brain wave patterns. REM sleep behavior disorder occurs during REM sleep, not deep sleep. Confusional arousals involve partial awakening, not sustained deep sleep with full consciousness. The equipment was tested and recalibrated, everything functioned perfectly. The brain wave readings were genuine. Marcus was simultaneously in the deepest stage of sleep, while maintaining complete environmental awareness and complex cognitive function. 6 months later, I still work night shifts at Riverside Sleep Disorders Center. But the Marcus Chin case changed how I approach patient monitoring. Every unusual behavior during sleep studies now gets documented with extreme detail and cross-referenced with available databases. I've developed protocols for verifying patient identity and employment information. We now require 2 forms of identification and conduct basic background verification for complex sleep study patients. The changes weren't popular with administration due to increased costs, but patient safety and facility security require these precautions. What haunts me is wondering how many other patients might be using sleep studies for purposes we can't imagine. How many seemingly normal individuals might have capabilities that current medical science cannot explain or detect? The night Marcus Chin came to our clinic, I thought I was conducting a routine sleep study. Instead, I witnessed something that challenged everything I believed about human consciousness, sleep physiology, and the security of our medical institutions. I've shared this experience with other sleep technicians at conferences, always carefully omitting identifying details. Several colleagues have reported similar cases, patients who demonstrated impossible awareness during documented deep sleep, often involving knowledge they shouldn't possess. These cases don't get published in medical journals. They don't fit our understanding of neuroscience. But they're happening more frequently than anyone wants to acknowledge. Have you ever felt like someone was watching you while you slept? What would you do if you discovered that your most private, vulnerable moments might not be as private as you believed? And if someone could maintain complete awareness while appearing unconscious, what other impossible things might be happening in the darkness while we think we're safe? I'm David Richardson, a certified sleep technician at Westfield Sleep Research Institute for the past 12 years. What I discovered about patient 193 on March 8, 2024, revealed a deception so sophisticated that it forced our entire facility to question everything we thought we knew about sleep monitoring. What started as a routine overnight study became evidence of capabilities that shouldn't exist in medical reality. Westfield Sleep Research Institute operates differently from typical sleep clinics. Located in Brookside, we're a specialized facility that conducts advanced research studies for pharmaceutical companies testing new sleep medications. Our patients are compensated volunteers who participate in multi-night studies measuring drug effectiveness and side effects. That March evening, cold rain pelted our windows as I prepared for another overnight monitoring session. The facility buzzed with activity, 6 technicians managing 12 patients across various study protocols. My assignment was patient 193, enrolled in a 7-night study testing a new insomnia medication called Somnitex 7. Patient 193 was registered as Amanda Foster, a 29-year-old graduate student from the University of California system. Her file indicated she'd been struggling with chronic insomnia for 3 years, making her an ideal candidate for our study. She'd passed all screening requirements: medical history, psychological evaluation, and preliminary sleep assessment. Amanda arrived at 8 p.m. in a white 2020 Toyota Camry with Nevada plates. During intake, she seemed knowledgeable about sleep studies, asking detailed questions about electrode placement and monitoring protocols. Her paperwork listed an apartment address on University Avenue, and her emergency contact was her sister, Lisa Foster. "I've done a couple of these before," Amanda mentioned as I prepared her room. "The compensation helps with student expenses, and I genuinely need help with my sleep issues." "What previous studies have you participated in?" I asked while reviewing her file. "One at Stanford 2 years ago, and another at UCSF last year. Both were medication trials similar to this one." Her experience showed during electrode attachment. Most first-time patients are nervous about the EEG leads and monitoring equipment, but Amanda positioned herself efficiently and remained still during the setup process. "The study protocol requires you to take the medication at 10 p.m., I explained. "We'll monitor your sleep architecture throughout the night. Try to maintain your normal bedtime routine as much as possible." By 10:30 p.m., Amanda had taken the Somnitex 7 capsule and settled into bed. The medication typically produces drowsiness within 30 to 45 minutes, followed by sustained sleep for 6 to 8 hours. Initial trials showed promising results for patients with chronic insomnia. At 11:15 p.m., Amanda's EEG began showing the characteristic alpha wave patterns of drowsiness. Her breathing slowed, her heart rate decreased, and her muscle tone relaxed appropriately. Everything appeared normal as she transitioned through the initial sleep stages. By midnight, Amanda's brain waves showed clear stage 2 sleep patterns, sleep spindles and K-complexes indicating consolidated sleep. Her breathing was regular, her eye movements minimal, and her body remained still. The Somnitex 7 appeared to be working exactly as intended. But at 12:47 a.m., I noticed something unusual in the data patterns. Amanda's brain waves continued showing stage 2 sleep, but there were subtle irregularities in the wave formations. The sleep spindles were present but occurred at slightly different intervals than typical patterns. The K-complexes appeared normal but lasted microseconds longer than standard durations. These weren't significant enough to indicate awakening or sleep disruption. Most technicians would have noted them as normal variations within acceptable parameters. But after 12 years of monitoring thousands of patients, I recognized these micro-variations as unusual. I decided to conduct a routine sleep architecture check, something we do periodically to ensure accurate data collection. This involves making a small noise or briefly turning on a low light to test the patient's arousal threshold, how easily they wake from their current sleep stage. At 1:23 a.m., I activated the room's dim safety light for 5 seconds. Amanda's brain waves never changed from stage 2 sleep patterns, but I noticed something that made me pause the recording and review the footage. Her eye movements, while minimal, showed a pattern that didn't match her EEG readings. During stage 2 sleep, eye movements should be slow and rolling. Amanda's eyes showed subtle but deliberate tracking movements, as if she were observing something specific. I immediately began more detailed monitoring, focusing on correlating her brain wave patterns with her physical responses. At 1:45 a.m., I introduced another test, a brief, soft auditory tone that normally wouldn't wake someone in stage 2 sleep but might cause slight changes in brain wave patterns. Amanda's EEG showed no response to the tone, maintaining consistent stage 2 sleep patterns. But the infrared camera revealed that her breathing changed slightly for exactly 12 seconds after the tone, then returned to the previous pattern. This suggested she had heard and processed the sound while appearing to remain asleep. Over the next hour, I conducted a series of subtle tests. Each time, Amanda's brain waves showed uninterrupted stage 2 sleep, but her physical responses indicated awareness of environmental changes. She was somehow maintaining sleep pattern brain waves while remaining conscious and aware. At 2:30 a.m., I decided to test my theory more directly. I quietly entered her room to check electrode connections, something we do routinely during studies. Amanda's EEG continued showing stage 2 sleep patterns, but I noticed her breathing pattern changed the moment I entered the room. As I approached her bed, Amanda's muscle tone remained relaxed, her eye movements stayed minimal, and her brain waves never deviated from sleep patterns. But when I reached toward the electrode leads on her scalp, she spoke clearly. "The connections are fine. Third electrode from the left was loose, but I adjusted it around 1:30. Her voice showed no grogginess, no confusion, none of the disorientation typical of someone awakened from sleep. More disturbing, she was correct, the third electrode had been loose, and according to my monitoring data, it had been repositioned at exactly 1:32 a.m. "Amanda, are you awake?" I asked. "According to your monitors, I'm in stage 2 sleep," she replied, her eyes still closed, her body still relaxed. "My brain waves haven't changed from sleep patterns all night." I checked the EEG display. She was right, continuous stage 2 sleep patterns with no indication of awakening or consciousness. "How are you able to maintain sleep brain waves while conscious?" I asked. "The same way I've been able to participate in sleep studies for the past 3 years," Amanda replied. "I don't actually sleep, but I can produce the brain wave patterns that your equipment interprets as sleep. My training told me this was impossible. Sleep brain waves are generated by specific neurological processes that occur during unconsciousness. You cannot voluntarily produce stage 2 sleep patterns while maintaining awareness and cognitive function." "What are you?" I asked, realizing this wasn't a normal medical situation. "I'm someone who needs to understand how your sleep medication research works," Amanda said. "The compounds you're testing have applications beyond treating insomnia. Are you industrial espionage?" "I'm evaluation and assessment," she replied. "Your Somnotech 7 trials are producing data that suggests the medication could be used for memory suppression and behavioral modification. That has implications for national security." I stepped back from the bed, my heart racing. "Your government?" "I'm authorized to monitor pharmaceutical research that could affect public safety," Amanda confirmed. "The sleep clinic setting allows me to observe your protocols, medication effects, and data collection methods. But your brain waves, how are you producing genuine sleep patterns while conscious?" "That's classified information," Amanda replied. "What you need to know is that your current study is being evaluated for potential security risks." I left the room and immediately called my supervisor, Dr. Patricia Williams, at home. "I need you to come in immediately. We have a situation with patient 193 that requires immediate attention." "What kind of situation?" Dr. Williams asked. "The patient is maintaining consciousness while producing genuine sleep brain wave patterns. She's also indicated she's conducting unauthorized surveillance of our research protocols." "That's impossible," Dr. Williams replied. "Are you certain the equipment is functioning properly?" "Everything's been tested and recalibrated. Her EEG readings are consistent with stage 2 sleep, but she's been consciously aware and responding to environmental stimuli all night." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Dr. Williams said. "Document everything and maintain normal monitoring protocols." When Dr. Williams arrived, she reviewed the overnight data and confirmed my observations. Amanda's brain waves showed uninterrupted sleep patterns, but her responses to environmental stimuli indicated maintained consciousness. This violates every principle of neuroscience, Dr. Williams stated after reviewing the evidence. She's either using technology we don't understand, or she has neurological capabilities that aren't medically possible. We decided to confront Amanda directly. When we entered her room at 4:15 a.m., she was still producing stage 2 sleep patterns according to all monitoring equipment. "We need to discuss your real purpose here," Dr. Williams said. Amanda opened her eyes and sat up, her EEG immediately shifting to normal waking patterns. "My evaluation is complete. Your Somnitex 7 trials pose significant security concerns." "What kind of security concerns?" Dr. Williams asked. "The medication produces memory consolidation disruption that could be weaponized," Amanda explained. "In higher doses, it could prevent formation of new memories while maintaining consciousness. That has obvious applications for interrogation and behavioral control." "That's not what our research indicates," Dr. Williams protested. "Your research doesn't test the full range of dosages or applications," Amanda replied. "My presence here was necessary to understand your complete protocol and assess the security implications." "Are you shutting down our study?" "That depends on your cooperation with security protocols," Amanda said. "Your research will continue, but with additional oversight and restricted access to certain data." Amanda began removing the monitoring electrodes with practiced efficiency. "My report will recommend continued observation of your facility and research protocols." "How did you produce genuine sleep brain waves while conscious?" I asked. "Some capabilities are beyond current medical understanding," Amanda replied. "What you observed tonight is evidence of human potential that isn't documented in your textbooks." At 5:30 a.m., Amanda completed her exit procedures and left the facility. Her white Toyota Camry departed the parking lot, and we never saw her again. The contact information she provided was disconnected, and her listed address was a vacant apartment. Dr. Williams reported the incident to facility administration, who contacted our security consultants and the pharmaceutical companies sponsoring the Somnitex 7 trials. Within a week, our study protocols were modified to include additional identity verification and background screening for all participants. The Somnitex 7 trials were suspended pending security review. 2 months later, the pharmaceutical company announced they were discontinuing development of the medication due to regulatory concerns. The specific nature of these concerns was never publicly disclosed. Amanda's case file was sealed and restricted to administrative access only. The overnight monitoring data was classified and removed from our standard research database. Official documentation listed her as withdrawn from study due to protocol violations, but I kept copies of the EEG readings and video footage. What Amanda demonstrated that night challenged everything I understood about human consciousness and the relationship between brain activity and awareness. Her ability to maintain genuine sleep brain wave patterns while conscious suggested neurological capabilities that current medical science cannot explain. The implications are staggering. If someone can control their brain wave patterns voluntarily, what other aspects of human physiology might be under conscious control? 6 months later, I received a call from a colleague at another sleep research facility in Denver. They'd had a similar experience with a patient who demonstrated impossible neurological capabilities during a medication trial. The patient used different identification, but the behavioral patterns were identical. "We're starting to think this isn't isolated," my colleague said. "There might be others with these capabilities conducting surveillance of pharmaceutical research." I've since learned that at least 7 sleep research facilities have reported similar incidents over the past 2 years. Patients who demonstrate conscious awareness while producing genuine sleep brain patterns, always in connection with medication trials that have potential security applications. These cases don't get published in medical journals. They don't fit our understanding of neuroscience or human capabilities. But they're documented in facility reports that most people never see. The Amanda Foster case changed my perspective on sleep research and the patients who volunteer for our studies. I now question the motives of every participant, and wonder how many others might have capabilities that we can't detect or understand. What disturbs me most is the realization that our understanding of human consciousness and neurological function might be far more limited than we realize. If someone can voluntarily control brain wave patterns while maintaining awareness, what other impossible things might be happening in research facilities across the country? Have you ever wondered if your sleep is really as private and unconscious as you believe? What would you do if you discovered that some people can maintain complete awareness while appearing to be deeply asleep? And if government agencies are monitoring pharmaceutical research through deceptive means, what other aspects of medical research might be under secret surveillance? The night Amanda Foster came to our facility, I thought I was conducting routine sleep research. Instead, I learned that human capabilities extend far beyond current medical understanding, and that our most secure research protocols might not be as secure as we believe. I'm Jennifer Walsh, a paralegal at Morrison & Associates law firm in Cedar Falls for the past 6 years. What happened in my apartment on January 22, 2024, revealed that someone had been entering my home while I slept for months without my knowledge. The discovery came through my new sleep tracking device and changed everything I thought I knew about home security and personal safety. My apartment is a second-floor unit in Willowbrook Estates, a quiet residential complex on Hickory Lane where most tenants are young professionals like myself. I'd lived there for 3 years without incident until I started experiencing chronic fatigue and unexplained sleep disturbances that prompted me to purchase a comprehensive sleep monitoring system. The problems began in October 2023. I'd wake up exhausted despite getting 8 hours in bed, often finding my apartment slightly different from how I'd left it. Small things: kitchen cabinet doors ajar, bathroom items moved slightly, my work papers reorganized on the dining table. I attributed these changes to my own forgetfulness and increased work stress. By December, the fatigue was affecting my job performance. I was falling asleep during client meetings and making documentation errors I'd never made before. My supervisor, Margaret Stevens, suggested I see a sleep specialist to rule out sleep disorders. Dr. Angela Torres at Cedar Falls Sleep Medicine recommended a home sleep study using advanced monitoring equipment. The SleepWatch Pro system included brain wave monitoring, heart rate tracking, movement sensors, and environmental monitoring with audio recording capabilities. This will give us detailed information about your sleep quality and any disruptions, Dr. Torres explained. Keep a sleep diary and note anything unusual you observe. I installed the system on January 20th. The main unit sat on my nightstand, with sensors placed around the bedroom to monitor movement, sound, and air quality. I wore a comfortable headband with EEG sensors and a wrist device tracking heart rate and movement. The first night produced interesting but not alarming data. My sleep efficiency was only 67%, meaning I spent significant time awake despite feeling like I'd slept through the night. The movement sensors detected minor disturbances, but nothing outside normal ranges. January 22nd changed everything. I went to bed at 10:30 p.m. after completing case research for a property dispute we were handling. The apartment was secure, door locked with deadbolt engaged, windows closed and locked, security chain in place. The sleep monitoring showed I entered stage 1 sleep around 11:15 p.m., progressing normally through sleep cycles. At 2:17 a.m., the environmental sensors detected a sound anomaly, a brief, low-frequency noise consistent with the door opening slowly. My brain waves remained in stage 3 deep sleep, and I had no conscious awareness of any disturbance. But the audio recording captured distinct sounds: footsteps on hardwood flooring, cabinet doors opening and closing, papers rustling, and what sounded like photographing or scanning activity. The movement sensors throughout the apartment detected a human presence moving through the living room, kitchen, and my home office area. The activity lasted exactly 23 minutes, ending at 2:40 a.m. with the same door-opening sound that had begun the episode. Most disturbing, the sensors showed this person had entered my bedroom while I slept. The thermal imaging detected a human figure standing near my bed for approximately 4 minutes, then moving to my dresser and desk area. They had been within 3 feet of me while I was unconscious and vulnerable. When I reviewed the data the next morning, I initially thought the equipment had malfunctioned. The idea that someone had spent nearly half an hour in my apartment while I slept seemed impossible. My locks were secure, my windows undisturbed, and nothing appeared missing or significantly moved. But the audio recordings were unmistakable. I could hear my own steady breathing throughout the night, punctuated by the clear sounds of someone moving through my apartment with practiced quiet. They knew exactly how to avoid the creaky floorboards and which cabinet doors made noise when opened. I called the police and filed a report with Officer Michael Torres of the Cedar Falls Police Department. He examined my apartment thoroughly but found no signs of forced entry. The locks were intact, windows secure, and no obvious access points compromised. "The monitoring data is compelling," Officer Torres admitted, "but without physical evidence of entry or theft, this is difficult to investigate. Have you given keys to anyone recently?" I hadn't. The only people with access were the apartment management office and my emergency contact, my sister Lisa, who lived 2 hours away. "I recommend changing your locks and installing additional security measures," Officer Torres advised. "If this happens again, call immediately." I had new locks installed that afternoon and added security cameras to monitor the exterior of my apartment. I also moved the sleep monitoring equipment to record the entire apartment interior, not just the bedroom. That night, January 23rd, the monitoring system captured another intrusion. Despite the new locks, someone entered my apartment at 1:55 a.m. using what sounded like a key or electronic access device. The lock mechanism made its normal unlocking sound, not the noise associated with forced entry. This time, the person spent 31 minutes in my apartment. The thermal imaging showed them photographing documents in my home office, accessing my computer briefly, and examining personal items throughout the apartment. They again entered my bedroom while I slept, this time spending 6 minutes near my bed and dresser. The audio recording captured them speaking quietly into what sounded like a phone or radio device. "Target remains unaware. Documentation complete. Personal habits confirmed. Proceeding to Phase 2 assessment." I woke up the next morning with no conscious memory of any disturbance, but the fatigue was more severe than ever. When I reviewed the monitoring data, I realized I'd been drugged. My sleep patterns showed unnatural depth and consistency. I never moved, never shifted position, never showed the normal micro-awakenings that characterize healthy sleep. Blood tests later confirmed the presence of a powerful sedative that explained my extended deep sleep and complete lack of awareness during the intrusions. Someone had been dosing me with substances that kept me unconscious while they conducted what appeared to be surveillance operations in my home. I immediately contacted FBI agent Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in stalking and harassment cases. The evidence of systematic home invasion with possible drugging elevated this beyond local police jurisdiction. "This shows sophisticated planning and execution," Agent Mitchell confirmed after reviewing the monitoring data. "The perpetrator has detailed knowledge of your schedule, access to your apartment despite lock changes, and pharmaceutical resources for sedation." "Why would someone do this to me?" I asked. "Given your work as a paralegal, this could be related to a case you're handling," Agent Mitchell explained. "Corporate espionage, litigation intelligence, or client information theft are possibilities." We reviewed my current cases and identified several that involved significant financial stakes. The property dispute I'd been researching involved a $12 million development project. A personal injury case involved a major pharmaceutical company. A divorce proceeding involved a local business owner with substantial assets. The investigation revealed that my apartment complex's master key system had been compromised. Someone with access to maintenance or management systems could enter any unit without tenant knowledge. The property management company's records showed several unauthorized key duplications over the past 6 months. Security footage from the building's exterior cameras had been systematically disabled during the timeframes of my intrusions. This indicated inside knowledge of the surveillance system and sophisticated planning to avoid detection. FBI analysis of the audio recordings identified voice patterns suggesting the intruder was a woman, approximately 30 to 40 years old, with possible law enforcement or security training based on terminology used and methodical approach to searching my apartment. The drugging method was identified as advanced, likely administered through my apartment's ventilation system using an aerosol delivery mechanism. This explained why I never tasted or noticed anything unusual, but still received sufficient dosage to maintain deep unconsciousness during the intrusions. After 3 weeks of investigation, Agent Mitchell identified the perpetrator, Detective Linda Harrison of the Cedar Falls Police Department, who had been conducting illegal surveillance on behalf of clients involved in civil litigation. She was using her law enforcement access to obtain master keys and her training to conduct professional-level home invasions. Detective Harrison had been hired by the pharmaceutical company involved in our personal injury case to gather intelligence about our legal strategy and evidence collection. My home office contained case files and research that would be valuable for anticipating our litigation approach. The scheme involved 8 other paralegal and attorney homes throughout the Tri-County area. Harrison had developed a systematic approach to intelligence gathering that had been operating for over 2 years without detection. Harrison was arrested and charged with multiple felonies including breaking and entering, assault, for the drugging, corruption, and violation of civil rights under color of law. She eventually pled guilty and received a 7-year prison sentence. The pharmaceutical company faced federal charges for conspiracy and hiring illegal surveillance services. The case resulted in a $50 million settlement and criminal charges against 3 executives. My apartment building installed comprehensive security upgrades, including individual electronic locks for each unit, enhanced surveillance systems, and restricted access protocols. The property management company faced civil liability for the security breaches. The sleep monitoring data that revealed these crimes became evidence in multiple related cases. Without that technology, I would never have known someone had been systematically violating my home and personal privacy for months. What disturbs me most is how vulnerable I was without realizing it. Someone with law enforcement training and pharmaceutical access had been entering my most private space repeatedly while I was unconscious and defenseless. The case changed my understanding of personal security and privacy. Professional criminals with institutional access can bypass normal security measures and conduct surveillance operations that would be undetectable without specialized monitoring equipment. I still use comprehensive sleep monitoring, but now it serves as a security system as much as health tracking. The technology that was meant to help with my sleep problems instead revealed a sophisticated criminal operation targeting legal professionals. The experience taught me that our homes aren't as secure as we believe, especially when criminals have professional training and institutional access. Someone with the right knowledge and resources can enter your most private spaces repeatedly without leaving obvious evidence. Have you ever felt like someone had been in your home while you were away? What would you do if you discovered that your sleep wasn't as private and secure as you believed? And if law enforcement officers can use their training and access for illegal surveillance, how many other professionals might be abusing their positions to violate our privacy and security? The night of January 22nd, I thought I was monitoring my sleep patterns to improve my health. Instead, I discovered evidence of crimes that had been happening for months while I was unconscious and vulnerable in my own bed. I'm Robert Martinez, a campaign field coordinator for Congressman William Hayes' re-election campaign in Fairview County. What happened during our final week push in February 2024 revealed that someone had been conducting systematic surveillance on our campaign operations while we slept in our temporary field office. The discovery connected all the previous incidents and exposed the full scope of a coordinated intelligence operation that had been targeting multiple sectors for over 2 years. Our field office was located in a converted storefront at 847 Central Avenue in Fairview, a crucial swing district that could determine Hayes' re-election outcome. The building had been a small retail space before we leased it for the final 6 weeks of the campaign. The front area served as our main workspace with phone banks, volunteer coordination desks, and voter outreach materials. The back rooms were converted into temporary sleeping quarters for staff working the grueling 18-hour days typical of campaign final pushes. Fairview is a town of about 35,000 people, demographically split between suburban professionals and rural agricultural workers. The district had been trending purple over the past decade, making it a prime target for intense campaign efforts from both parties. Our operation employed 12 full-time staff and coordinated over 200 volunteers for voter contact, door-to-door canvassing, and get-out-the-vote efforts. I'd been sleeping in the converted conference room for 5 nights, surrounded by campaign materials, voter databases, and strategy documents that represented months of careful planning and research. The room contained sensitive information about voter targeting, volunteer coordination, opposition research, and internal polling data that would be valuable to competing campaigns. February 26, 2024, I went to sleep around 2:15 a.m. after processing the day's voter contact data and preparing materials for the next day's canvassing operations. The office was secured according to our standard protocol: front entrance locked with deadbolt and security chain, back door locked with commercial-grade deadbolt, all windows secured, and our basic alarm system armed. My sleeping area was equipped with a fold-out cot, a desk containing campaign strategy documents, and my laptop with access to our voter database and internal communications systems. The room also held boxes of voter contact sheets, volunteer schedules, and internal memos about campaign strategy that we'd developed over months of careful planning. At 3:47 a.m., I was awakened by the distinct sound of papers rustling in the main office area. The sound was deliberate and methodical, not the random noise of settling building materials or outside activity. The office was completely dark, but I could clearly hear someone moving carefully through our main workspace. What struck me immediately was how familiar the person seemed with our office layout. They were avoiding all the furniture, equipment, and obstacles that would trip up someone unfamiliar with the space. They knew exactly where our desks were positioned, which areas had loose floorboards that creaked, and how to navigate between our phone bank stations without bumping into chairs or equipment. The footsteps moved methodically through our phone bank area, where we kept calling lists and voter contact scripts. Then to our volunteer coordination station, where we maintained schedules and assignments for our 200-plus volunteers. Finally to our document storage area, where we kept research files, opposition research, and internal strategy documents. The most disturbing part was hearing them enter my sleeping area. They spent approximately 10 minutes moving around my desk, and I could hear the distinct sound of papers being handled, camera shutters clicking softly, and what sounded like scanning or photographing equipment being used on documents. I heard my laptop being opened and used briefly. The startup sound was barely audible, but I recognized it as my own machine. They accessed the system for perhaps 3 or 4 minutes, during which I could hear typing and mouse clicking. Our voter database and internal communications would have been accessible through my logged-in accounts. Most concerning was hearing them speak quietly into what sounded like a phone or radio device. Target database confirms voter suppression coordination with pharmaceutical data cross-reference. Riverside Sleep Clinic intelligence shows pattern consistency across all operations. Proceeding with Phase 3 comprehensive assessment as planned. This reference to Riverside Sleep Clinic, immediately connected to incidents I'd heard about through my professional networks. My sister Jennifer Walsh, a paralegal in Cedar Falls, had recently experienced systematic home invasions that were discovered through sleep monitoring equipment. She'd mentioned that her case was connected to other similar incidents involving sleep clinics and pharmaceutical research. The person continued their systematic search of campaign materials for another 8 minutes, focusing on areas where we kept our most sensitive strategic documents. They photographed voter targeting lists, internal polling data, and strategy memos that outlined our approach to the final week of campaigning. When the person finally left at 4:23 a.m., I waited 10 minutes before getting up to examine the office. Everything appeared normal at first glance, but closer inspection revealed subtle signs of disturbance. Papers were in slightly different positions, file folders had been accessed and replaced carefully but not perfectly, and my laptop showed recent activity in programs I hadn't used. I immediately called our campaign security coordinator, James Patterson, a former military police officer who handled security protocols for our field operations. He arrived within 30 minutes and conducted a thorough examination of the office. "This shows professional-level intelligence gathering," Patterson concluded after reviewing the evidence. "The perpetrator had detailed knowledge of your security measures and office layout. They knew exactly what they were looking for and how to find it efficiently. We examined the alarm system and found it had been disabled without triggering any alerts. The locks showed no signs of forced entry, suggesting the person had legitimate access methods, either keys, electronic access, or sophisticated lock-picking equipment. This could be opposition research taken to illegal levels," Patterson explained. "Corporate or political espionage targeting our voter outreach strategies and internal campaign planning." Patterson recommended immediately upgrading our security measures. We installed additional motion-activated cameras throughout the office, upgraded to a professional-grade alarm system with multiple sensors, and implemented new protocols for securing sensitive documents overnight. The next night, February 27th, the surveillance continued despite our enhanced security measures. The intruder again accessed the office between 3:30 and 4:45 a.m., using what appeared to be legitimate entry methods that bypassed our upgraded alarm system. This time I was prepared. I pretended to remain asleep while secretly recording audio on my smartphone, hidden under my pillow. The person repeated their systematic approach, but this time spent even more time accessing our voter database and copying files to what sounded like external storage devices. I recorded them photographing our volunteer contact lists, which contained personal information about supporters willing to donate time to the campaign. They accessed our voter targeting algorithms, which represented sophisticated analysis of demographic and behavioral patterns developed over months of research. Most concerning, about 20 minutes into their visit, they did something near the office's air circulation system. I heard what sounded like an aerosol spray being activated, and within minutes I felt unnaturally drowsy despite having been alert and focused moments before. The substance they introduced induced such deep sleep that I lost conscious awareness of the remainder of their activities. When I reviewed my phone recording the next morning, it captured another hour of activity that I had no memory of experiencing. Blood tests later confirmed exposure to the same sedative compounds that had been found in my sister Jennifer's case. Someone was systematically using pharmaceutical methods to ensure unconsciousness during their intelligence gathering operations. FBI agent Sarah Mitchell, who had investigated Jennifer's apartment invasions, immediately took over our campaign surveillance case when I reported the connection between incidents. The pattern of sleep clinic infiltration, paralegal home invasions, and now campaign office surveillance clearly indicated organized criminal activity. "We're documenting coordinated intelligence operations targeting legal professionals, medical researchers, and now political campaigns," Agent Mitchell explained during our initial interview. "The same methods, same pharmaceutical substances, same sophisticated planning and execution." Agent Mitchell's investigation team included specialists in political crimes, corporate espionage, and pharmaceutical crime. They began comprehensive surveillance of our office while coordinating with other federal agencies investigating the broader criminal network. The investigation revealed that Detective Linda Harrison, who had been arrested for the apartment invasions involving Jennifer and other legal professionals, had been part of a much larger criminal organization conducting surveillance operations for corporate and political clients. Security analysis of our office breach showed that entry was accomplished through cloned electronic key cards and sophisticated alarm system interference equipment. The perpetrators had detailed inside knowledge of our security protocols and access to professional-grade surveillance and infiltration equipment. Our voter database access logs revealed systematic attempts to identify and analyze targeted demographic voting patterns, voter suppression strategies, and get-out-the-vote planning. This intelligence was being used to coordinate counter-operations designed to suppress voter turnout in areas favorable to our campaign. Internal strategy documents were being shared with opposing campaigns and corporate interests that would be affected by Congressman Hayes's legislative positions on pharmaceutical regulation, environmental policy, and campaign finance reform. On February 28, we coordinated with FBI surveillance teams to capture the intruders during their next operation. Using advanced thermal imaging equipment, audio monitoring, and coordinated observation posts, federal agents documented a team of 3 individuals conducting systematic intelligence gathering throughout our office. The operation was led by Margaret Thompson, a former CIA intelligence operative who had been recruiting compromised law enforcement officers and private security professionals for illegal intelligence contracts. Detective Linda Harrison was one of several law enforcement officers she had corrupted to provide access and technical support for surveillance operations. Thompson's criminal organization had been conducting similar intelligence operations against 12 different political campaigns across 6 states, specifically targeting candidates whose policy positions threatened specific corporate interests in the pharmaceutical, energy, and defense contracting sectors. The campaign surveillance operations were coordinated with broader voter suppression efforts and disinformation campaigns designed to influence election outcomes through illegal intelligence gathering and strategic interference with campaign operations. Thompson and her team were arrested on federal charges including conspiracy to interfere with federal elections, burglary, unauthorized access to computer systems, violation of federal campaign finance laws, and running a criminal enterprise engaged in political espionage. The case revealed extensive corruption involving private intelligence contractors, compromised law enforcement officials, and corporate clients seeking to influence political outcomes through illegal surveillance and intelligence gathering operations. Several pharmaceutical companies and political organizations that had hired Thompson's services faced federal investigation for conspiracy charges and campaign finance violations. Multiple corporate executives and political operatives received criminal charges for their involvement in the illegal intelligence operations. Our campaign was able to implement enhanced security protocols and complete the election successfully despite the intelligence breaches and ongoing federal investigation. Congressman Hayes won re-election by a margin of 3.2%, though we later learned that voter suppression efforts based on stolen campaign intelligence had likely cost us several hundred votes. The case ultimately connected to all the previous incidents we'd been tracking: the sleep clinic infiltrations involving patients who weren't actually sleeping, the paralegal home invasions discovered through sleep monitoring, and now the campaign office surveillance operations. The same criminal network had been gathering pharmaceutical research data, legal strategy information, and political campaign intelligence simultaneously. What disturbs me most about this experience is how sophisticated and coordinated these operations were while remaining completely undetected for over 2 years. Professional criminals with institutional access and advanced technical capabilities conducted systematic surveillance operations that compromised democratic election processes, medical research integrity, and legal case confidentiality. The sleep clinic connection revealed that Thompson's organization was monitoring pharmaceutical research with potential security applications, while simultaneously gathering political intelligence and legal strategy information. The scope and coordination suggested either foreign intelligence interests or domestic corporate clients with significant resources and long-term strategic goals. Campaign security now requires considerations far beyond traditional political opposition research or competitive intelligence gathering. Professional criminal organizations with law enforcement connections and pharmaceutical access represent threats that most political campaigns are completely unprepared to identify or address. The incident taught me that political campaigns operate in a much more dangerous environment than most people realize. When campaigns handle sensitive voter data, strategy information, and internal communications, they become targets for sophisticated criminal operations that most campaign staff never consider. Our experience revealed vulnerabilities in political campaign operations that extend far beyond traditional security concerns. Professional intelligence gathering operations targeting sleeping campaign staff represent a level of threat that requires federal law enforcement response and comprehensive security upgrades. The connection between pharmaceutical research surveillance, legal profession targeting, and political campaign intelligence gathering suggests that certain corporate interests were systematically attempting to influence multiple sectors of society through coordinated criminal operations. Have you ever wondered if your political activities, professional work, or personal information might make you a target for sophisticated surveillance operations? What would you do if you discovered that your sleep wasn't private even in supposedly secure political or professional locations? If private intelligence contractors can systematically compromise law enforcement officers, medical research facilities, legal professionals, and political campaigns simultaneously, what other democratic institutions and professional sectors might be infiltrated by criminal organizations with advanced capabilities and unlimited resources? The night of February 26th, I thought someone had broken into our campaign office to steal computers or equipment. Instead, I discovered evidence of coordinated intelligence operations that had been targeting multiple sectors of society while people slept, gathering information that could influence elections, compromise medical research, and undermine legal proceedings. The criminal organization we uncovered had been operating for years, using sophisticated methods to gather intelligence that threatened the integrity of democratic processes, medical research, and legal proceedings. Their ability to coordinate surveillance across multiple sectors while maintaining operational security for years demonstrated capabilities that most people would never imagine existed in criminal organizations. Thanks so much for watching. I can't express enough how much your support means. The likes, the comments, it all really helps the channel grow. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. I always take the time to read them. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on any new videos. See you next time.